In 1942, the United States government did something they had never done before. They ripped the nickel right out of the cell, replaced it with silver, and then stamped a giant letter on the back so big you can see it from across the room. They wanted everyone to know these coins are different. And now, 80 years later, some of those beat-up, ugly, tarnished war nickels are selling for more than a used car. One sold for over $16,000. And the craziest part? There's a fake one, a literal counterfeit that collectors are paying real money for. War nickels have gone absolutely wild. And if you're not checking every single nickel in your pocket change, your coin jar, your junk drawer, you are leaving serious money on the table. Look at this coin. In World War II, the United States faced a serious problem. Nickel metal was desperately needed for the war effort. So in 1942, the United States Mint did something they had never done before. They removed nickel from the Jefferson Nickel. Instead, they made the coin with 35% silver and stamped a huge mint mark above Monticello on the back. So big you can spot it from across the room. These coins became known as war nickels. And today, things have gone crazy. Some of these old worn-out nickels, coins that look like pocket change, are selling for thousands of dollars. In fact, one rare example sold for over $16,000 at auction. But here's the wildest part. There's even a counterfeit war nickel that collectors actually pay money for. That's right, a fake coin, worth real cash. So, if you're not checking every nickel in your pocket, change, coin jar, or junk drawer, you might be throwing away a small fortune. Because the coin I'm about to show you could change everything. Take a look at this coin. Back in 1989, the United States Mint quietly produced millions of Jefferson nickels, and most people never gave them a second thought. They were just ordinary pocket change coins. People spent them at gas stations, grocery stores, and vending machines without ever looking twice. But decades later, collectors started noticing that some 1989 nickels were anything but ordinary. The coin is the famous Jefferson Nickel. And while most of them are still worth only 5 cents, a few rare examples have shocked collectors, with prices reaching hundreds and even thousands of dollars depending on condition, mint mark, and rare errors. In 1989, these nickels were produced by the United States Mint at several locations including Philadelphia and Denver, each mint leaving a small but important clue on the coin, a tiny letter known as the mint mark. Collectors pay very close attention to coins like the 1989 P. Jefferson nickel and the 1989 D. Jefferson nickel, because in high-grade condition, coins that were never circulated and still have their original shine, they can sell for serious money at auction. But the real excitement comes from the errors. Some 1989 nickels were struck with unusual minting mistakes, including off-center strikes, doubled details, and other rare production. Errors that happened during the minting process, these mistakes turned an ordinary 5-cent coin into a highly collectible piece that coin collectors search for every day. One of the most talked about varieties is the 1989 nickel, with strong doubling, where parts of the lettering or the portrait appear doubled, creating a dramatic effect that experts and collectors love to find. When one of these shows up in excellent condition, the value can jump dramatically. Another surprise comes from coins that were preserved perfectly since the day they were made. Collectors call these high-grade coins, and they are graded and certified by professional companies. Sometimes a flawless example of a common year, like 1989, can sell for hundreds or even more because so few survived in perfect condition. The design of the coin features the portrait of Thomas Jefferson on the front and the historic home Monticello on the back. Design that has become one of the most recognizable coins in American history. So the next time you get change from a store or dig through an old jar of coins, take a closer look at every 1989 Jefferson nickel, because the coin sitting in your pocket right now might look ordinary. But in the world of coin collecting, it could be hiding a value far greater than 5 cents. Many collectors believe that valuable coins are always old silver pieces or coins from the early 1900s. But sometimes the real surprises come from modern pocket change coins that people overlook every single day. That is why coin collectors always say, check every coin carefully. Because hidden among millions of ordinary nickels, there might be a rare 1989 Jefferson nickel waiting to be discovered, and it could be worth far more than you ever imagined. Most people never think twice about a nickel. It is the small 5-cent coin that ends up forgotten in pockets, lost under car seats, or sitting at the bottom of old jars in kitchen cabinets. But what if one of those nickels from 1981 could actually be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars? That sounds unbelievable, but for coin collectors, it is a real possibility because certain examples of the famous Jefferson nickel from 1981 have surprised the collecting world with shocking values. Back in 1981, millions of nickels were produced by the United States Mint, and they were released into circulation across the country. People spent them on snacks, vending machines, bus fares, and everyday purchases without realizing that some of those coins would later become collectible treasures. At the time, the coin looked the same as it had for decades, featuring the portrait of Thomas Jefferson on the front and the historic home Monticello on the back, a design that has been recognized by generations of Americans. But hidden among the millions of ordinary coins were a few special pieces that collectors today are desperate to find. The year 1981 produced nickels at 2 major mint facilities, Philadelphia and Denver, each location producing coins with slightly different characteristics. Coins from Philadelphia usually have no mint mark, while coins from Denver carry a small letter D near the date, and that tiny detail can make a big difference in the world of coin collecting. Most 1981 nickels that circulated through everyday use became worn-scratched and dull over time, but a small number survived in beautiful condition coins that were never heavily used and still shine almost like the day they were minted. Collectors call these high-grade coins, and when they are preserved in near-perfect condition, their value can increase dramatically, sometimes reaching hundreds or even thousands of dollars at major auctions. But condition is only part of the story, because the real excitement begins when minting errors enter the picture. During the coin production process, massive machines strike metal blanks with enormous pressure to create the design of the coin, and occasionally, something goes wrong. When that happens, the result can be a rare error coin, and collectors absolutely love error coins because they are unusual, accidental, and extremely hard to find. Other examples show doubling where parts of the letters, numbers, or design appear duplicated, giving the coin a strange, almost shadow-like effect. To an ordinary person, this might look like a damaged coin, but to a trained collector, it could mean serious value. There have also been examples where the strike was unusually strong, creating incredibly sharp details on the portrait and the Monticello building coins like this stand out immediately because every line and feature looks bold and crisp. When coins like these are graded by professional services, their value can rise quickly because collectors compete fiercely for the best preserved examples of each year. In fact, certain high-grade 1981 nickels have sold for impressive prices simply because so few were saved in pristine condition. Think about it for a moment. When these coins were first released, nobody thought they would ever become valuable. They were simply nickels used in everyday life. People carried them in their pockets, dropped them in parking meters, and spent them without hesitation. Very few people carefully saved brand new rolls of 1981 nickels, which means truly flawless examples are surprisingly difficult to find today. That is one of the reasons collectors search through thousands of coins hoping to discover a hidden gem. Sometimes these discoveries happen in the most unexpected places inside old piggy banks, forgotten coin jars, inherited collections, or even pocket change from a grocery store purchase. Stories like this appear in the coin collecting world all the time, where someone finds an ordinary-looking nickel only to discover it is worth far more than 5 cents. Imagine opening an old drawer in your home and finding a handful of nickels that have been sitting there for decades. At first glance, they might seem completely ordinary, but among them could be a rare 1981 Jefferson nickel with an unusual strike, beautiful condition, or a fascinating mint error. That one coin could suddenly transform a handful of spare change into something far more valuable. Collectors know that every coin tells a story, and the story of the 1981 Jefferson nickel is a reminder that even modern coins can become collectible treasures over time. While silver coins and older historical pieces often receive the most attention, the truth is that valuable coins can come from almost any year, including the pocket change people still carry today. The key is learning what to look for. Sharp details, bright original surfaces, unusual minting mistakes, and coins that appear almost untouched by circulation are the types of pieces collectors are always hoping to find. And the amazing part is that many people still overlook these coins every single day. They pass through stores, gas stations, and vending machines without anyone realizing their potential value. It is one of the smallest coins in everyday pocket change a coin that people spend without a second thought. A coin that gets tossed into jars, dropped into parking meters, or forgotten in drawers for years. But what if one of those ordinary nickels from 1974 could actually be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars? It may sound unbelievable, but coin collectors know that certain examples of the famous Jefferson Nickel from 1974 have surprised the collecting world with impressive values, especially when rare conditions or unusual mint errors are involved. Back in 1974, millions of nickels were produced by the United States Mint, and they quickly entered circulation across the country. People used them to buy snacks, pay bus fares, and make everyday purchases without ever imagining that decades later, collectors would carefully search for them. The design of the coin had already become one of the most recognizable in American history. The front of the coin features the portrait of Thomas Jefferson, while the back shows his famous historic home Monticello, a building that has appeared on the nickel for generations. In 1974, these nickels were struck at different mint locations, including Philadelphia and Denver, and each mint left its own small mark on the coin, a tiny letter that collectors study very carefully. Coins from Philadelphia usually have no mint mark, while coins from Denver carry the small letter D near the date, and although the difference may seem small to collectors, it can be extremely important. Millions of these coins circulated through the economy, which means most examples became worn, scratched and dull after years of use, but a small number managed to survive in far better condition than the rest. These coins were either saved by collectors or simply stored away somewhere safe untouched by circulation. And today, those high-grade examples are some of the most desirable coins from the year. Collectors often search for nickels that still have strong details, bright surfaces and sharp edges, because coins like that are much harder to find than people might expect. A perfectly preserved 1974 nickel can stand out immediately when compared to a heavily worn one, because every detail of the portrait and the Monticello building looks bold and clear. When a coin like that is graded by professional coin grading companies, its value can increase dramatically because collectors compete for the finest examples available. But condition alone is not the only reason a 1974 nickel might become valuable. Sometimes the real excitement begins when minting errors are discovered. During the minting process, powerful machines strike metal blanks with enormous pressure to create the coin design, and occasionally something goes wrong. When that happens, the result can be a mint error coin, and error coins are some of the most fascinating pieces in the entire world of coin collecting. Some 1974 nickels have been discovered with off-center strikes, where the design is not perfectly aligned on the coin, making part of the portrait or lettering appear shifted. Others show signs of doubling, where certain parts of the letters, numbers, or design appear duplicated, creating a strange and dramatic look that collectors immediately notice. There are also examples where the coin was struck with unusually strong pressure, creating incredibly sharp details on the portrait, and the building on the reverse coins like this often stand out, because every line looks deep and crisp. When these coins are preserved in near-perfect condition, collectors become very interested, because finding flawless examples of older circulating coins is much harder than people expect. Think about how many nickels were used in everyday life during the 1970s. They were constantly handled, dropped into cash registers, and carried in pockets for years. Very few people at the time carefully saved brand new rolls of 1974 nickels, which means truly perfect examples are rare today. That is why collectors still search through thousands of nickels, hoping to discover one special coin hiding among ordinary change. The most exciting discoveries often happen in unexpected places, inside old piggy banks, inherited coin collections, or jars that have been sitting untouched for decades. Someone might open a container of coins that has not been checked in years and suddenly find a beautiful 1974 Jefferson nickel with sharp details and almost no wear. At that moment, a coin that once seemed completely ordinary becomes something much more interesting. The thrill of discovering a valuable coin is what keeps collectors searching every day, because the next rare piece could appear anywhere, even in the change you receive from a store. That is why experienced collectors always say the same thing: never ignore pocket change. Even modern coins can become valuable over time, and the 1974 Jefferson nickel is a perfect example of how an everyday coin can slowly gain attention in the collector world. Every coin has a story, and the story of the 1974 nickel is a reminder that history is often hiding in the smallest places. The coins people once carried casually through daily life can later become pieces of history that collectors study, admire, and preserve. So the next time you come across a handful of nickels, take a moment to look closely at each one, especially if you spot a 1974 date.